Hello and welcome back to Yeti Kitchen. Today we're making Korean baked chicken, using a technique that we used in a previous video with our oven fried chicken. This recipe works best with air fryers, but I don't have the type of air fryer to make it properly, so I decided to modify it so you can make it in the oven and still have great chicken afterwards. First we're going to start with the brine. Let's go with 4 cups of water and our spice mix, which you will see listed on the side here. You want to mix it till all of the spices dissolve into the water. Now we're going to add our chicken. Be careful here, because you don't want to displace too much of the brine solution. If you find your brine is about to overflow, just scoop some out or pour some out into the sink and keep going. Now let's cover it up with some plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for a minimum of 2 hours. I would recommend waiting at least 24 hours. In this case, I got busy the next day, so I waited 2 days. Alright, here we are, 2 days later. Now you just want to get the wings out of the solution. Using a strainer is probably the easiest and most effective way to do it if you don't want to make a mess. Of course, whatever method works best for you is good as well, as long as you get it out of the brine. Now let's set that to the side to chill and get our breading ready, which we'll be using a cake and pastry flour for. We'll begin with 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of potato starch or cornstarch, 1 tablespoon of salt, a healthy dose of black pepper, one teaspoon of baking powder, and that's it. Mix all the ingredients until it's well incorporated. And next we're going to make our wet batter, which will use 1 cup of the flour mixture we just made and 1 cup of water. You can use normal water if you'd like. I chose to use carbonated water. I find it creates a lighter, more crisp batter. Now you just want to mix it together. And just to note, it will get thicker as you're breading your chicken. So you're going to want a runnier consistency, kind of like this. And now the fun part. Set up your breading station. It really depends on you how you'd like to set up your breading station, but we are going to be double breading this, so keep that in mind as you're building yours. I've also went ahead and got my tray ready on the oven there. And as I said, we're using a technique that we used the first time we made the oven-baked chicken, in which we use a combination of butter and oil on the pan to create that fried effect. If you didn't use this method, you would have some very dry, floury chicken. Knock off any excess flour to get something like this. Now let's throw it into the wet batter and not do what I did, and shake off some of the excess liquid batter. You want to avoid that so you don't make big chunks of breading. And this is how you should be doing it. Now let's toss that back into our flour mixture and give it a good coating. You'll get something like this, and at this time, it's ready to go right onto the pan. And that's it for the messy part. Now watch me go at sonic speeds. Make sure you're using the wet hand, dry hand technique here too. And when all is said and done, we'll get something that looks like this. I also drizzled a bit of oil and butter mixture on top of the chicken wings. This way they get a nice even crispy coating, although we will be flipping this multiple times through the cooking process. Okay, into the oven we go for 15 minutes at 400. You're going to want to check it and see how well it's cooking depending on your oven, and give it a flip. Now while that's cooking, let's make some hot sauce. For this recipe, I went out and got some gochujang chili paste, which is what's traditionally used in Korean cooking. Of course, the sauce is completely optional, but highly recommended. As you can see, the paste is very sticky, so you just want to be wary of that. Now let's add some of our soy sauce. I added in about 2 tablespoons. We're also going to be adding a tablespoon of sugar. I'm using monk fruit sugar. And I almost forgot to add the garlic. So quickly peel a clove of garlic, chop her up, and throw it in. A rough chop works fine for this recipe. We don't need anything fancy. Now let's throw it on the stove in a saucepan and heat it up. Take the same bowl and throw some water in it, mix it up and throw it into the pan as well. We'll add a bit more sugar and just a pinch of salt, and a tablespoon of mild paprika for good measure. Now heat it up not to a boil, just hot enough so everything can become cohesive and the sugar can dissolve. Now that that's finished, let's transfer it into a bowl and then set it aside to cool. And now for our next sauce. The pan doesn't have to be hot like this. I just did this by accident. We're going to want about a half cup of soy sauce. To that, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of honey. One tablespoon of oyster sauce. Ugh, if I can get this bottle to cooperate with me. You know what, we'll just eyeball the tablespoon and just kind of get it in there. A healthy blasting of garlic powder, and just a bit of water to dilute it a bit. Now give it a mix. Once it's thoroughly heated and mixed, transfer it to a bowl and set it to the side to cool. Off camera, I did take it out after the 15-minute mark, gave it all a flip, and threw it back in. So using my judgment, I could tell that it wasn't quite done yet, so I put it back in for another 15, adding up to about 45 minutes of cook time. And once that was all over with, we came out with this. Delicious, crispy fried chicken wings. Or should I say baked? At this point, it's all just assembly now. Throw some sauce into a bowl, enough to cover all the wings, give it a toss, and plate it up. The honey soy sauce should be applied a bit differently from the chili sauce that we made. If you try to toss it in the honey soy sauce, it'll become soggy and you'll lose all that crisp we worked for. Throw some green onions on there, and we're good to go. And here we have it. Korean baked chicken wings. Absolutely delicious. One of my favorite recipes to make. Thanks again for joining me today on Yeti Kitchen. Now that we're at the end of this, I will really recommend the potato starch over the cornstarch. It creates a lighter, crispier sort of batter, but this recipe already has so much crunch. Thanks again for your support and your viewership. It really does mean a lot to me, like I said in the last video. And if you have any suggestions for recipes you'd like to see, please put it in the comments. I do read every comment, and I appreciate it. If you can't get enough of me, you can always catch me on Twitch, where I cook, have live streams, play games, have watch parties, kind of just random stuff. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll catch you next time on Yeti Kitchen.